Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint.com is now TradingCardMint.com. Please check out their selection of over 20,000 cards with prices cheaper than TCG Player.
So I'm on a standard royal kick at the moment. I'm not exactly sure how my life got to this point, but I'm actually enjoying this deck. And that's saying a lot about my character. I actually just like the control aspects that this deck actually brings to the table. You get to abuse Escapade the Blaster and things like that. So first up, if you guys like the playmat, or if you like any of the other playmats that you guys usually see in these videos, please check out our friends at ZeroDamagePlaymats.com down below in the description. I'll leave a link. If you enter MCOL40, you will get the chance to save a little bit of money. Also, if you check out our friends at TradingCardMint.com, you guys might know them, formerly known as YugiOhMint.com. They do a lot of great Vanguard deals on stuff coming into set 4 in the next couple of weeks. When the set goes live, you'll get the chance to get some great stuff. If you enter MCOL40 on checkout, I heard that you'll save a little bit of money over there. Every little bit is something, especially if you're planning on picking up singles and things like that from there. So, please do check out our friends. Down there in the description, you'll find links. Now, this is literally just dubbed Watch Your Counter Blast the deck. This deck doesn't actually have a good countercharging engine at the moment, and I absolutely understand why they didn't give Royal Paladin a countercharging engine. Had this deck had Counter Blast management, this might have actually been one of the best decks in the format. And this deck all just revolves around Blaster Blade in terms of generating advantage, abuse, and things like that. So, this is also a Japanese list as well. I put it together. I believe that this was the one that did relatively well at the BCS finals. I saw this deck and I automatically knew, I was like, oh, I'm in love with this. The only difference is I'm indifferent about the number of escaplates, but I'll talk about that when I get to that point. Escaplate's kind of hit or miss, but you definitely want to see it. So you got to play shittier numbers and things like that. So we're playing 3 copies of the Grade 3 Alfred. Now, Counterblast 1 Call Blaster Blade from the deck is absolutely great. And the fact that this also gains power while it is on the field is great as well. I think slamming bigger numbers is what this deck wants to do in terms of beatdown. Also, specifically getting to call the Blaster Blade from the deck for the overall deck thinning potential and further aggro the opponent is great. Also, Alfred Early is a great card, but it doesn't have a place in Standard at the moment, because with the way that the deck is designed now, you have to understand that ratios mean everything, and you can get away with a lot more cheeky plays with this, especially so much. This deck draws so much. It's just kind of when you get into more of the control matchups and things like that, like you have to manage your rear guards a little bit better. Now, this card is actually dumb. I didn't actually realize how good this was until I started playing it recently. So all of your Blaster Blades on Rear Guard and Guardian Circle are going to get 10k power and 5k shield. A Blaster Blade without a Force Marker at 19k is really cute. And then he actually has a very unique skill of Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, return a Blaster Blade from your drop zone to your hand, and this unit is going to get 15k and a critical +1 if you have an Alfred in the heart. So basically, you're going to go into this, and then you're going to go into Monarch Sanctuary Alfred, and you're going to continue to aggro your opponent into submission. Very standard, nothing really too self-explanatory with this. Literally, you got to get a Blaster Blade in the drop zone. Obviously, you want to have a Blaster Blade in the soul too, but that's for another time in life. So, there's that. Now, we're on 3 copies of Escapade. And when I saw this on the list, I automatically understood that you need this. But you have to have that goddamn Blaster Blade in the soul. If you do not have the Blaster Blade in the soul, this card is dead to you the whole game. But, I mean, if you're able to pull this off, you can call Escapades to the front row, have 14k beaters, you know, you're able to do your thing. But in your matchups that you need to control the field, this is unfortunately the card you're going to have to go for. He makes your Excel matchup just all the better. And he is hard to achieve, but like I said, not only do you have to keep the Blaster Blade in the soul, you have to draw this card. And that's why I like 3 of it at the moment, just to hard see it. If you don't see it in those matchups, and you're kind of hoping this is just kind of a sub-strategy the more you play. Like, you're hoping that the stars are lining up, that you're good to go, and ram your opponent with this. So, very important. Now, this needs no explanation. If you're playing this deck and you're not playing the heart and soul of the deck, I don't know what you're doing. One piece of advice I do want to know, or to give to people, is don't be afraid to, basically, you can spam this out on the first Habit gains crit, and then don't be afraid not to aggro your opponent with this. I think it is very important to understand when and when not to use the skill of Blaster Blade, and controlling the field is very important. Depends on the matchup in the long run, but getting a free 5k out of the way, it does come in handy at times. Now, I know some people are going to be like, oh man, you're still playing Akane without Soul Saver? Yes, this card is actually really good. So, when placed, counterblast one search your deck for a Pongo and call it to rearguard. And then during the battle that this unit is boosted by a High Beast, it will get 3k. Now, it doesn't have to specifically call the Pongo behind her. You can call that thing anywhere that you want. Now, this is why I said, like, I wish we had a countercharging engine in this deck, because, you know, you can draw all the cards you want in this deck, but you are inherently limited within the counterblast unless you do sack your opponent and hit heals. But this engine it's so good still in the deck. The Pongos do a lot of work, especially if you get the lucky soul charge on the Blaster Blade. I'm also not afraid to mulligan for the Blaster Blade if I have to. Extreme mulligans happen. Now, we need to talk about this. When I first was looking at Bedivere and K, I was like, are we really going to play this? So my first major complaint about this, well, actually, I'll explain it to you first. So, when placed from your hand, you can call a Knight a Friendship K from your hand to rearguard, if you do, draw a card. And then when this unit is boosted by K, he gains 3k, so he'll be 13k by himself. My first complaint about this is when you are actually playing this deck and you set up a field. Most of the time your opponent's not going to try to clean off your field. So the later the game goes, the more that these just kind of become dead cards. In the initial setup phases, this is bonkers, actually. I think the best hand I had was double K Blaster Blade. My opponent gave me 2 counter blasts. I was just like, holy crap, we are going to town. But his friend in crime is actually pretty good too. We have 4 copies of K. This is the grade 1. So what actually makes this card so stupid is when it's placed from hand, counterblast 1, search your deck for a Bedivere and call it to rearguard and shuffle your deck. And then this will also get 3k when it is boosting. So you have a 13k and 11k. You're making a 24 column, and if you have an Excel circle set up on this, you're going to be doing more damage to your opponent. I think the important thing is, if you have this and this, you get to draw a card while setting up initial combos if your opponent board wipes you. I just like the fact that these cards, in connection to each other, do actually draw. Like, great job on card design with these guys. So, there's that. Love those cards to death. Now, 4 copies of Pongo. There's nothing really too explanatory with this. You're using the Akane engine to further deck thin, and then the Soul Charge gets you another card thinned out of the deck while you're continuing to pressure your opponent. Also, large booster at 8k, free deck thins. You know, not going to complain too much about it. Now, we are playing 2 copies of this. Call another card from your hand of the same grade as your Vanguard and draw a card. I just kind of like this because extending out in the earlier stages of the game was actually pretty good. No real complaints from this card. And then we're actually playing a new promo. This card, Sword of Hope Richard. So he actually has a pretty interesting skill. So if you have 3 or more rearguards, all of your units in the same column as this unit are going to gain intercept. This just kind of lets you throw down grade 1s and things like that, or if he wants to intercept himself. I mean, it's a 10k interceptor that he can intercept from the back row with. Actually pretty good. Why Me is our starter, and then we have 6 draw triggers. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. And then we have 6 copies of crits for the aggro, and 4 copies of the heals lining out the deck. Guys, please check out our friends at Zero Damage Playmats and TradingCardMint.com down below. Enter MCO40 on checkout. Save a little bit of money, and I hope this helps you on your Royal Paladin journey. Alright guys, I'm out. Peace.
That's not all, card fighters. Please subscribe for more Cardfight Vanguard content. Please remember to check out MCO40 for Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and please check out MCOGames.com, my store, along with No Limit Gaming and LGTCG.com for all of your guys' trading card game needs as well. Until next time, guys, remember to hit that subscribe button. Later.